there will be no real non-controlled currency in the world.
We're coming for you, banks.
Bitcoin is punk rock. Deal with it.
You split, we bankrupt you.
Do you use Lightning wallets to pay for things or not?
No.
Bitcoin Cash would be seen as more of a threat to the United States hegemony than Bitcoin.
Miles, Tom, what's your favorite kind of money?
Bitcoin Cash.
Hello and welcome back to the Bitcoin Cash podcast, following Bitcoin Cash on its rise to global reserve currency. This is episode number 63, which I've titled Regulation and Twitter Takeover, featuring Joël, Valenzuela. Today is actually Sunday, the 30th of October, but these new slides are a little scrappy, just getting in the vibe, but hopefully they look nicer, so maybe everyone can enjoy that. Anyway, our guest today is a digital currency advocate, longtime Bitcoiner, one of the true crypto OGs, and lives entirely bankless and doesn't have
I don't have
bank.
a podcast called the Bankless Podcast, so I'm not all the way there apparently.
You need to work on that, but he does work on the Digital Cash Rundown and the Dash podcast as well, and actually has been on the show as well before. I think it was episode 20 something or 30 35 maybe. Anyway, you came on and talked about all the different coins, which was actually awesome. A lot of people enjoyed that episode. But welcome to the show, Joël. For the listeners that missed last time, just give a brief in your own words of what you do in the crypto space.
Yeah, so hey everyone, I'm Joël. I've been living off of cryptocurrency. I haven't been paid in fiat since 2015, I should say. And it's been a crazy run. I do, media, podcasting, all that kind of stuff. I run my channel, Digital Cash Network, and also do other writing and marketing stuff on the side. And more importantly, I'm trying to now launch into teaching people how to live on crypto and soon how to build a business on crypto to be truly censorship resistant. So I was living on Bitcoin at first. That didn't work after a while. So then I started to use Dash because that was like a year before Bitcoin Cash even existed. And then that's mostly what I use, but I've started using Bitcoin Cash as well. Some Monero here and there, some things like that, all that kind of stuff. And today I'm wearing my Bcash green shirt with a nice reminder of Karl Marx atop a pile of skulls saying, "Sorry guys, just a theory," just so we set the mood right for this show.
Well, I have some sympathy for Karl Marx, I've got to say, because people who think Karl Marx is discredited will say, well, that was socialism not done right. And if it were me, I would say, well, BTC is Bitcoin not done right. So I got to say there's some there's some merit to that, but the eternal optimism of the human spirit prevails, and we're here to fix that by doing it right this time. So that is about the one thing that socialists and I have in common, a bit of a sense that we just need to crack on and do it differently and better. So speaking of that, we got the price. Crypto still kind of going sideways this week. Bitcoin Cash, $116.42 USD, so up a tiny little bit. One BTC now buys 178 BCH, so down a slight shade there. And one Ethereum buys 13.6 BCH. ETH actually had a pretty good week, so BCH is down a bit more there. We were actually, Bitcoin Cash fell out of the top 30 for a couple days, but as per always, a few things get above us and then they sort of fade off once their pump is over. But yeah, really hoping that probably 2023 we can start grinding our way back up the rankings as the community starts pumping out more projects and excitement, and maybe the St. Kitts conference as well too. Maybe that'll add a bit of juice into things. Joel, how are you feeling about the markets right now? You would explain to me before the show how you handle that situation.
Oh, well, we're in a bear market. I'm used to the up and down cycles. That being said, it's a little two things are present. First off, it's annoying to see good projects like stuff like Bitcoin Cash should have been in the top 5, right? Should be like up there. You should have like all like the good ones, the tried true ones, like right in the top 10 instead of like 8 stable coins or some nonsense. So that's a little sad to see the misalignment, but at the same time, I'm starting to see like before, if it wasn't a top 10, top 20 coin or whatever it was, you didn't even pay attention, right? No one cared. And now people just don't seem to care so much about market ranking. I mean, unless you're like one of the BitBoys of the world that just has to talk about that or whatever. But like, I remember a time when people were like, that's a top, that, oh, it's not even in the top 10. Why should we care? And now people are just like, well, it's in the top 100 and it's in our vein of things. Like when you see payment processors, for example, in what they like the BitPays of the world and like what they accept for payments as far as crypto is concerned, that does not align with like mostly the top 20 at all. It's just like it's clearly the ones for money. The money coins are there, the payment coins. And then you get something else and then just like it's all on, you know, the smart contract kind of side and things like that. So that's kind of like what my general thought. I think I still see the markets, and I saw in past cycles a bunch of like, again, not to use the word shitcoin, but like a bunch of inferior projects pretending to be better projects. Now I see a lot of inferior projects not pretending to be better projects. And like, if I would recommend anyone go to Justin _BONS, his Twitter feed. He does like Twitter threads that are, you know, probably 10 tweets too long, but whatever, about like going deep dives into projects, and mostly it's just like dumping on whatever the latest smart contract. Like half of them are just like telling everyone why Solana sucks. And so he had one recent one about Solana. The fact that that's up there, I think we're in for a reckoning. And I wouldn't say maybe it'll start next bull cycle. Maybe it'll start the one after that. But eventually we're going to have that kind of readjustment where you won't see ridiculous valuations on terrible things, and you won't see teeny valuations on things that are actually valuable in the real world today.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, I think for a long time people have seen the coin market cap and the rankings especially as kind of a score, just because people come into things and they need some sort of ease, and because it's a financial product as well too. People are used to the idea of the top 50 companies on the S&P or whatever, so people think in those terms for financial products. Of course, as has been explained on the show many times, market cap is a misleading at best indicator, and just wholly inaccurate at worst. But I think it's a fair point, actually, a very good one, that over time the sort of respect of a project, or the what do you call it, maybe not the visibility, but the overall recognition of a project is diverging from the coin market cap rank. And rather than the good projects rising to the top of the coin market cap has just become less valued as the exact way to price a project. Because you're right, things like Monero, Bitcoin Cash, even Litecoin, though I hate to admit it, Dash, obviously, even something like eCash, for instance, probably far lower down the rankings than coins that, like, typical things that such coins would have, which other projects don't have, are they've been lasting a very long time. They have a truly organically developed community. They have a good coin distribution that isn't largely held in the hands of VCs. They maybe have little or less of a central command and control structure going on behind the scenes. All those things are what I think you and I are looking for, as well as obviously functionality that the coin market cap rankings don't really reflect. In fact, if the bigger the slice of the pie that all your investors hold on to, the more you can pump it through the roof, like Avalanche or Solana. If 95% of the supply is held by a couple of VCs who are planning to cash out in 10 years, then you only need a little bit of retail FOMO, which those same VC investors will finance, and you're off to the races, right? So,
yeah, there's a lot in that, by the way, we just went through. First off, I'd like to point out, everyone out, maybe sorry for throwing out so many like sources and websites right away, but there's cryptofees.info is the real scoreboard, which is how much people are paying to actually use networks, which is, you know, company revenue, if you could say it like that. And it doesn't mean anything about quality of projects, but that's like the real adoption metric, I should say. And of course, like total adoption, not like adoption is money, because I would argue there's a lot more people paying their bills with something like Bitcoin Cash today than there are with Ethereum. Yet Ethereum is just like so much money is flowing through there and people are paying to use it. And so over time, I think that's going to be the metric that we're going to be watching. It's funny you mentioned stuff like eCash, which has some interesting, should say some interesting innovations to it. I would call it like another attempt at being Dash, sort of. You know, it just kind of like Decred is also a different. It's like it is kind of a bullish signal, like when you have like 8 privacy coins or 8 Bitcoins or whatever. That like the main thing is a good design. But like ACAT, I just looked at the block explorer. It's like under 1,000 transactions a day. It's like it's pretty low right now. So it's potential, but you know, we'll see where that goes. Really quick thought on VCs. I hate that stuff. You know, I hate the like the VC driven stuff. At some point, I do think the old networks, the old like, oh, we had a fair mine and all like those, you know, us those nerds, you know, us lame nerd people need to actually figure out how to approach VCs and find a way to get that money into the still decentralized ecosystem. It just say like, look, why don't you, I mean, with something like a Dash where if you buy a bunch of the coin, you can actually vote and have a seat at the table sort of thing. It's a little bit of more of a direct proposition, but even something like Bitcoin Cash, like I'm sure like Sonny and Roger have seen plenty of reason to throw a bunch of money to like bootstrap parts of the ecosystem. And, you know, I think that you kind of need that seed capital. I mean, everyone just had that, oh, Bitcoin was organic, man. It's just like, you know, that first girlfriend that you like saw across the bridge and just you knew it for like it's that's not realistic though. That's not the way the world works. So we gotta kind of figure out how to maintain the decentralization but still appeal to larger investors.
I mean, I think part of the strategy, I guess, more especially from the Bitcoin Cash case, but maybe also from things like BTC or Ethereum or probably the Monero community would be like, just fuck right off with the VCs. But any sort of angle like that is more, it's a kind of a grassroots up thing. The idea that, okay, the VCs can pump a lot of money into basically scamming people in Solana or whatever, which they have done, but that only gets them so far, because at a certain point, the consumers actually try or need the product, and then they figure out what is real and what is not. I anecdotally was recently talking to somebody about crypto, and I was showing them Bitcoin Cash and explaining all that. And it's funny that it's now when I was showing them Bitcoin Cash and explaining, they got it and they could see that this was a real thing that I was talking about. But I didn't need to explain to them that most of the rest of crypto was just scams and bullshit. They already knew that. And even though they knew very little about crypto, just me being able to give them a sensible explanation and demonstrate with a couple of wallets was already very clearly sort of delineating in their mind, wait, this is a real person that I know and trust and I have talked to a bunch, and it practices what he preaches, telling me about this thing that I can see works for myself, versus I just see this endless casino going on in all these other coins, which I've avoided because I knew that maybe there was something going on there, but I didn't know what was actually happening. And so once that process, I think, is starting to become actually fairly widespread, the amount of people able to be suckered into just whatever is hype this month is slowly just drying up, as all the world has heard of Bitcoin, has heard of the alternatives, understands that there's a lot of speculation and bullshit going on. You know, over time, it becomes more and more important that the VCs are not going to be able to make money just pumping bullshit. They're going to have to actually invest in projects which real people are choosing to use. So I think that's kind of the angle. Like, we're going to let them come to us by making something so good that they can't ignore it. But maybe that's a foolhardy strategy, or less, not optimal, let's say.
Yeah, I mean, I think that we're starting to sort of see while things are different, well, this is a completely new technology in space, and we can't think of things the same way. A lot of things that apply to old school companies still do apply, where you got the startup phase, you got like the VC darlings, and then you got like a business where there's like a mom and pop business out of your basement that you just do whatever with. You start slowly gaining customers over time. And that is really hard to take to the big leagues unless you're very successful. But at some point, you start to be successful. At some point, either investor just come on by, or more importantly, you court investors. Then you get more stuff in, and then you grow. And there's a million different models, and some businesses will just only be the size that they will. Like they're not everyone is trying to take over the world. Some are trying to take over the world. They come and go. Things that have different revenue models. Things are a lot of things like I believe Pinterest was losing money hand over fist for many, many years, as they just had this like cool, exciting thing out there and had no monetization model. Now they're monetizing it, and I don't know if it's doing as well, but like this is all analogous to the way the crypto thing works. And so I think at some point, like no one, like how many people on Twitter are aware of its stock price? I mean, I don't know any of this stuff. How many Amazon shoppers know what the stock is doing that day? How many, et cetera, et cetera. And so I think at some point we're going to have a lot of established businesses that people just use or don't, network businesses, decentralized businesses, but still business style nonetheless. A lot of tech people are going to use. And then it's unlike like you have like an all-in-one app with like a Venmo or something like that. Unlike that, I think a lot of the crypto experience is going to be multi-chain without knowing it's multi-chain even. And that's the way it's going to be different. It's kind of like, oh, look, this is written in Go. This is, written in Rust or React or whatever. Like it's going to be a little bit more like that. But yeah, I don't know. At some point, right now, like one of the reasons my channel isn't as big as it could be is because I'm not as good at running YouTube channel as I should be. But let's be fair to start out with that. Another big part is I never talk about trading or price. Really, I just never. I just don't care. And that's literally the whole space. I do have my most popular video does ask the question of why does the Bitcoin price go up? And so I had to throw one in there just to see. And sure enough, that's kind of off to the races. But I think that at some point we're going to have a divorce of the world. It's not even going to be, the good projects are going to start winning. It's just like the good projects are going to be a completely different zone. Like no one's even going to be talking about them in the same category. Kind of like how NFTs sort of divorced from like the digital cash era a lot. And then what people are doing, all that stuff. And then there's like the DeFi degens over there. And then there's like a bunch of different categories that don't even like see each other.
Yeah, I think so. And I mean, it will be interesting, I think, because the digital cash people were there first, right? So in the sense that you and I might be more willing to sort of ignore the NFT people as kind of, okay, you're a bit of a fad, and once your project's fucked off in 2 years, then I mean, I don't know, whatever, you've got a short attention span and you will have done something else, and we're still doing this. But it's going to be quite ironic if it gets to a point where the DeFi degen people are still, hey, look at my newest NFT, and then they go into the shop and buying a sandwich in Bitcoin Cash or something, right? Like we can probably ignore them forever, but they probably can't ignore us forever, whether or not it clicks to them that that's what's happened. If it all goes to plan, that's how it's going to work out, right?
Probably a lot of these crypto businesses there will be some sort of a EVM pipeline, so to speak, to payments, because like before it was just like obviously Bitcoin number one, right? The daddy. There's always some like way to pay stuff with that, but then it was always like the Bitcoin Cash community, the Dash community, the Monero community to a certain extent, like everywhere you could pay, those communities were pushing it forward. And then out of the blue, I saw a Brave ad for some company that allows you to pay all your bills with Polygon and just Polygon. I was like, whoa, that came from nowhere. But if you think about it, people mint cheap NFTs on Polygon because Ethereum sucks. And then what happens when they sell them? They get on the exchanges or the markets, the NFT marketplaces. Then they have profits, and then they can pay their bills right with that without swapping it over to something first. So I think there's always going to be a little bit of that. It might be like, Polygon for your latte or whatever a little bit. But as far as like the money thing, that's just like a revenue source where you have a business and it's like the gas, like revenue from the business, and you can pay it like that. But I don't know if anyone's ever going to be like, I'm going to just like buy Matic, just buy Polygon because I think my money's safe in there. Like no one's doing that. No one's probably ever going to do that. And they're going to be doing stuff that they know the supply is decentralized. They know it's secure. They know their money is safe. And then if they can spend a safe money, that's the money that's going to win out. Like all the stuff that maxis are talking about, there's some truth to that. I mean, they overestimate like their uniqueness, kind of like, oh, we're the only ones that can do it. Like, no, it's not true. But there's a lot of truth to that, to where all these compromise chains, I should call them, like Ethereum to a certain extent, but like all the other ones, like the Solanas, the Cardanos, the Avalanches, it just like, sure, we'll give half our supply to VCs here or there. We don't care. Just get the stuff going. Those ones, it's going to bite them in the ass at some point. And it might not bite their use case in the ass, but it will rule them out as being like a money people trust, especially if they're not private too. And so there's always going to be people saving and wanting to earn and spend the real stuff.
Well, yeah, because then, I mean, there is certainly like you're saying about that Polygon case, that's not the case that there's an entire supply chain of people that like Polygon. Basically, what that business is doing is offering, we'll do the conversion on our end instead of your end, right? So
yeah,
there's a certain extent to which people will be able to, at some point, probably just pay him whatever crypto they choose, and the person is just all going to be, side shifted essentially, and people are going to be receiving money in whatever currency they choose to. So what's going to set coins apart is going to be the currency that people choose to hold at the end of the day, like you're saying, which is why there's going to be a high priority on, a high premium on security and longevity and stuff like that. But also where I think network effect and efficiency of the chain is going to matter massively, like scalability, right? Because there's a certain network effect, and other coins, maybe it's going to be like, you can pay in whatever coin you want, but if you're going to pay on your crappy coin, well, you're going to pay my transfer fee, and you're also going to pay my currency conversion fee, which will probably go down over time as liquidity increases. But on the other hand, like it just still means that the BTC idea still doesn't work, because somebody has to pay the fee at the end of the day, and nobody's going to be the one who's wanting to do it to get settled on chain.
Yeah, I think you'll see the prices, like the prices of goods and services, reflect some of this, because it's increasingly, I mean, ignore that Thorchain got halted a few days ago because of some consensus bug that they fixed quickly. At some point, stuff like Thorchain is going to be the norm, to where your point of sale system can just convert to the money you want instantly, pretty much, and without any third party, without any centralized counterparty or anything. But it does cost a conversion fee, like around, I think a lot of Thorchain interfaces would be like around a 1% or something like that. And so 1% is not that much on like coffee. But if you're trying to buy like, a new computer, let's just say, like, what's a 1% of $1,000, right? That starts to get a little, that starts to get a little more. And you're like, well, it's that much cheaper if you just pay me right in the thing I want, rather than this thing that has to go through the Thorchain, and it eats away a little bit of that price. And so you should see that kind of a thing. Or more importantly, you could configure your point of sale system to just automatically price it in whatever, to just automatically factor that in. Like if this is the price, it's priced in this. Anything else is something that is, you add the to cover the Thorchain conversion fee or whatever in there. And then I'm sure there's going to be like saver apps and stuff where people are going to, like, the services are going to survey all the businesses and be like, well, which is the most popular currency that people want to hold back end? And then these are the ones that are not going to charge you extra. So if you like today's Litecoin day. If you pay in Litecoin, you have a 67% chance of actually saving money because people want that. And then, oh no, Bitcoin Cash, that's the more popular one now. So that's the one that you can save on. Yeah, the rabbit hole can go pretty deep on this.
Yeah, super interesting. And this is all this sort of extra stuff that is going to be built. I mean, it's like what you're talking about. It's nothing radical or nothing. You don't have to be sold on a million different concepts to get involved in that or be a libertarian or anything. It's like literally just we haven't had enough time. And if you just give the engineers and the businesses in crypto time to keep plugging away at it, all this stuff is going to exist. But it's we're just going to see it all play out over the next 5 or 10 years. So speaking of that, the big crypto drama from the last week or so has been this huge dust up. I guess you could describe it as several different industry influencer voices getting involved in this big sort of roundabout and at times acrimonious debate on regulation. You and I actually talked about this on the Digital Cash Rundown as well. People can check that out if they want to hear some thoughts of it there. But I'm going to take a slightly different angle to it here, and the story has also developed a bit since. So basically, it all started with Sam Bankman-Fried, who is the richest person in the world under 30. He's got some $25 billion or something like that, which he made by starting an exchange called FTX. Although that was the second thing he did. The first thing he did was called Alameda Research. And basically they were doing crypto arbitrage starting in Japan and then growing to all these other places by adding liquidity into crypto markets. So he saw the price was lower in the US than in Japan. So he bought a bunch of crypto in the US and then sold it in Japan, and then used, cut off the profit and then used the rest to buy back the crypto he originally had. And basically by iterating on that, he's become ludicrously wealthy. Now, what he has done as a result of getting big in the industry is he's now able to influence the direction of the scene to some extent. And he's also a bit of a character. He's a bit of a weird guy in some respects. And so he has put out this, he's not very crypto native in the sense he's not really he doesn't even really describe himself as a big believer in cryptocurrency. He just saw an opportunity and he took it. And he put out this post called Possible Digital Asset Industry Standards recently, where he was talking about what are things that the crypto industry can negotiate with or aim towards or whatever in dealing with regulators. So I personally didn't agree with much of this, but he was essentially advocating for everybody following or respecting, in his words, the OFAC block list, so the US government sanction lists, and saying, look, well, we need to keep protocols decentralized and censorship free, but we should also allow regulation, or we should basically proactively offer regulation of web front ends, so the actual website that you use to use something like Aave or MakerDAO or Sushi Swap or I guess some of those smart Bitcoin Cash MISwap, like things like that, that the actual websites themselves should be regulated as financial institutions, which is essentially an opportunity for him to corner the market, because that's the product he's already selling. He's essentially just screwing over his competition in doing so. And he also had some other kind of points that I thought were a bit suspect, basically about he was advocating for community norms around hackers returning funds. He thought there should be a fair amount, in quotation marks, of 95% of the funds should be given back in any hack. And I didn't really understand that part of it either, because I mean, what do you mean? You're negotiating with a hack. He was basically saying it's unproductive that we always have to negotiate with hackers when people get hacked, but that's how it works. They've stolen your money. They've got your money. Like they're not just going to say, oh, well, you say it's fair if I give back 5%, so I'm going to give back 5%. Great. So that point seemed kind of naive to me too. But in general, did you have a bit of a take on his proposed regulation? And we'll go into the pushback and the commentary in a sec.
Yeah, he definitely is trying to absorb the new system into the old system. And I think that there's a lot of like speculation on like what are the motivations, what does he want to do by this. I think it's probably 50-50. I think half of it comes from I would say a good place, or like a useful place, let's say, where he's seeing this impasse where crypto's the Wild West. The crypto people love it, but people are getting scammed and losing money. And also seeing that the regulators are coming, he's like, oh, I don't know about this whole thing. And he just wants it to be legit, above board, so the whole space can just move forward. And so he's trying to solve that impasse by being like, look, I'll extend the olive branch to the regulators and say, this is what we could do that's reasonable. We can kind of meet in the middle here. Which, of course, it doesn't work that way, because the regulator's going to say, oh, that's a great start, but these 5 things too, and then you're screwed, right? On the other side, as you mentioned, he's not like a crypto native dude. He saw an opportunity, went for it, and he's seeing here, this is a system that works for him and his products and what he does. And screw all the, starving kids in Africa are getting like random donations and stuff that like don't, or the small micro entrepreneurs that want to do this and just make it big because they have nothing else in life other than their goats. And like, there's like all this, the freedom tech bit he doesn't get or care about. And more importantly, I think he sees it as like a threat to him and his business model on 2 levels. First, if he is the largest centralized exchange, probably, I mean, it's up there. He's been talking about buying Coinbase, so he's not exactly like a small minnow. He bought Voyager, did all this stuff. If he's in that place, DeFi will ruin a giant chunk of his business. Not all of it. Obviously, there's the fiat on-ramp stuff, which still has a place for a while. But DeFi, where people just get to like cut out all the regulatory red tape he's doing, cut out all the employees, just runs. Just make code that runs and then just spits out money, like he can't compete with that. So he wants to crush it. And also DeFi hacks, DeFi scams, all this kind of stuff looks bad on his business and makes his potential customers wary to jump in. So he's just like, nah, let's do it. Let's get a thing that works for me in my world. And also, as I pointed out on my show, was the day before yesterday, I was looking through the political side of my Twitter feed, right, the non-crypto side, and I saw some like mega donors in the U.S. 2022 midterm election, and I just saw his face. I'm like, what? So I look at this thing, and there's all these like mega donors, and there are like, I recognize some of them, but like the only young person on the entire list was Sam Bankman-Fried, and he's giving, I think he gave like 40 million to Democratic Party causes. And he's pledged like 100 million. I heard of something about that, which the Democratic Party, for those who aren't, U.S. political, is the ruling party, the party of the COVID lockdowns, the party of like the bailouts, of the hyperinflation, like all the bad stuff. And the other party, let's be honest, kind of sucks too. I'm not going to get all political on that. I'm not thrilled about the other one either, but just saying the establishment is all this. And all the people calling for crypto regulation tend to be on the Democratic Party side of things. And so, and I looked at like the funding breakdown. I think he's given like 2 million or something like that to pro crypto candidates or something like that, which is good, but that's like 2% of like everything. Like everything else is there to reinforce the status quo, that like the ruling elite. And so I think he just saw an opportunity with crypto, made a bunch of money, and now he's trying to just solidify himself into the system. He's kind of like the like in the movies or whatever, when there's like the he's like the Judas to like the heroes. It's like the, what's his name in the Matrix, who just wants the stakes, so like sells everyone out. Yeah, he's the Cypher. He's definitely the Cypher in this, where he's a young guy, younger than me clearly, which makes me a little bit sad about what I've done with my life, but that's a different story. He's a young kid. He's done all this, and he's one of us sort of, but he's like, you know what? I'm like the chink in the armor. I'm just gonna like sell the whole thing out. So yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on that.
Yeah, well, it certainly seems to be. I've seen some suggestion. I mean, some people would go down the angle that, okay, like once you are that big, that's it. You are linked into everything. You're linked into all the, like you're saying about the donations and the political stuff, and undoubtedly the government, intelligence or like anything like that is also going to be knocking on his door. The law enforcement and whatever, he's going to be caught in the middle of all that, and the degree to which he is or isn't ensnared in all that, either voluntarily or involuntarily, it's going to be hard for anybody else to say. But part of what I was referencing when I said before about he's a bit of a weird guy, I don't know all the specifics. I'm not an expert on whatever he has or hasn't said in public about this, but he's supposedly this big proponent of effective altruism, and kind of similar to sort of Bill Gates or whatever, has pledged that he's going to give all this money away. But being an effective altruist, and I'm trying to save humanity, and the first thing I'm going to do is make enough money to give it away. Well, yeah, I mean, there's some merit to that. I actually think in a capitalist society, that's a great idea and whatever. But the problem is that you can kind of say that, but then just still be a greedy bastard, right? And be going, if he really was all about saving humanity and whatever, it's kind of weird that he pairs his rhetoric about I'm here to help people and the planet and whatever, yet he doesn't really appreciate any of the like freedom of speech or human rights or egalitarian access to finance. He doesn't really click with any of that. So it does seem like a bit of a shill, to be honest, on my part.
Yeah.
But that's just my impression. So then the next phase of this was that Erik Voorhees wrote a long sort of rebuttal or counter argument, I guess you could say, which was much more the classic crypto staunch supporter of we need it all to stay censorship resistant. He's fairly realistic. So Erik, for people who don't know, it's a very long time Bitcoiner, one of the early OGs. Is I think 2011, maybe even 2010, late 2010 era type of guy. He has an exchange called Shapeshift, which let you swap between coins, and he has then like decentralized all of that. So I don't think he's even like, it was a company, but then the company shut down because they didn't need the company anymore. And he just wrote this long principled explanation of, okay, well, there is going to be some regulation, and certainly we need to be aware of that and engage with that and so on and so forth. But on the other hand, if we get shut out of, if there's regulation of websites effectively like SushiSwap as the same as a bank, those companies are not going to do anything, and it's going to destroy every dividing line of the difference between DeFi and TradFi, basically. And he also has been involved longer than SBF in the whole industry and in this area specifically, because he was running Shapeshift. So he can make a lot of good points about, for instance, the Bit license, which was this regulation that came in controversially in New York in I think it was about 2014 or 2015. It was fairly early on from today's perspective. And there was this guy, Ben Lawsky, who came in and created all this super onerous regulation to do with crypto businesses in New York. And as a result, a lot of businesses cut off access to New York. They basically just geofenced New York. And if you're in New York, I actually tried this at the time or shortly after, like Bitfinex or any kind of crypto business would just say you can't access this. Too bad, so sad, because they couldn't be bothered to deal with the innovation. New York, of course, being supposedly the home of Wall Street and financial powerhouse and whatever, just excluded all the innovation from it because of this one guy, Ben Lawsky, and his Bit license. He then quit the regulators. He then quit the regulators and became a consultant, selling his knowledge on how to work your way through the rules and traps and stuff that he had set up, right? It's the most hypocritical insider, trading type of move ever. It was just blatantly done. And of course, it just validated to everybody in crypto that these are the corrupt people that we're basically trying to overturn and fight against. And once he'd done that, good for him. His career is sorted, but he has completely screwed up the whole crypto thing, at least in New York. And the main point as well that Erik makes about this is that it's not that at the time, even more hardcore as it was back then compared to now, there still wasn't people saying we don't need regulation. There was people saying that, right? But the prevailing sense by the bigger companies at the time, things like Coinbase or BitPay, was they did engage very heavily. They didn't just say, no, we're doing our own thing, leave us alone. They did talk to him. They did provide recommendations. They did consult, blah, 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 blah. And it basically was all for naught in the face of this corrupt politics, which everybody kind of expected, but it did go down exactly that way, right? So there's not a good track record of, okay, we're going to deal with you guys on a good faith basis and we're going to get good faith results. Obviously, Jeremy Kaufman with the SEC and Library is another similar case of this kind of thing happening. So talk to me a bit about what you took from the Erik Voorhees angle on it all.
Well, first I gotta hit on the bit license thing real quick. You have no idea how much of a pain in the ass that thing is. It's not. So, for example, I have a friend of mine who lives in New York, and on Coinbase he can buy like lots of cryptos, but he can't buy Dash, for example, because it's not a bit license thing. It works in the other 49, so you could buy it anywhere else on Coinbase, but just not there. And I have been working on like the side in the last few years, trying to help the Dash community with some things. And a lot of the biggest hurdles are like Coinbase Commerce doesn't let you accept Dash. BitPay doesn't support Dash. Like all these a few things. And the answer always comes back to the bit license. Well, it's because of the bit license, because we want something that's like above board for like everywhere. We want something universal. We can't sell a merchant software that like only in New York it's not going to work out super well. Like, you can't accept the currency in like one state. And so then in research, it's like, well, how do we do that? And I talked to some people who are well connected in that scene. And basically what you have to do is get a company to advocate on your behalf to the regulators to basically get the bit license to approve that currency, or else you have to like get a special exception. It basically, unless you're a big player, no company is going to go to bat for you on that. Like if Ethereum, for example, was not a bit license thing, all the exchanges would be kicking down the door to be like, you got to license this. And basically, this is something I learned very early as I grew up in the north of Mexico. And my family routinely paid bribes to border guards because that's just what was done there to get stuff through. There's always a price. And at some point, though, it's taught me that the U.S. is exactly the same with extra steps. It's just like the whole Rick and Morty thing. That sounds like slavery with extra steps. It's like the exact same thing. It's basically quoted at a few $100,000 to even up to $1 million to paying the right people to get Dash into like bit licensed into New York. And it's just like, Jesus Christ, like that's what all this regulation is at the end of the day. It's just a big old price tag that a bunch of leeches feed off of, and it keeps the small innovative players out and keeps the big established ones in. That's the way it is at the end of the day. And like all this, like I understand I just steel manned SBF there by saying, well, he's just trying to like, while all that is true, it's hopelessly naive and irresponsibly naive even to try to say that like, oh, more regulations are going to work like this, because that's not how it ever works in the real world. And Erik knows this, Erik Voorhees. Now, the thing about Erik, I'm kind of sad about that Erik is the other side of the Overton window. I think we need someone like Roger Ver back in the limelight, not fighting about, Bitcoin used to work this way and like just shut up about that for a while. Go back to like the first principles to be like Mr. Radical freedom over there, which Erik Voorhees believes in, but he's Mr. Middle. He's like the peace offering guy. And so you need Erik in the middle, SBF on this side, Roger on this side to pull the whole thing. So what Erik says goes. I think that's what we need. Now, as far as Erik's thing, he started Satoshi Dice back in the day, which is not really like a legit company, but he made a ton of money off of it and then got like sued by the government and he paid his fine and still had plenty left over. So he was like, all right, well, I'm going to do this like cool shapeshift thing. And then he saw the writing on the wall that regulators were coming and he played ball with the regulators and it ruined his business. And then he's just like, well, screw it. I'm just going to be a DAO and just be outside of their stuff. So he shut down the company and just ran this. And as I was mentioning about like Thorchain and stuff, like the Shapeshift is basically a Thorchain front end. Thorchain is like their cross-chain part back end, but it also plugs into like ETH swap systems and other things. And so when this funny, he says he draws a red line at allowing web front ends for DeFi backends to be regulated as financial institutions. That's because that's him. That's literally what he does. And it just like he's seeing like, look, I got out of the game. I got out of the company game, centralized game, the trying to deal with the regulators and then they screw your business game to do this. And you little freaking pipsqueak with a poofy hair, you're trying to like ruin this too. And so regulation is inevitable, but I think what we need to understand, whether we're ideological or not, is crypto's huge and popular because it's unregulated, basically, because it's outside of that stuff, because people acquiesce to so many rules and they just like they stacked up over time until we got this situation where the system sucks. And now we got a good system. And while there's no avoiding, you can't just like, it's not going to be awesome forever. It's like, you're not going to have a tiny fraction of a penny for a Bitcoin Cash transaction forever. If it becomes popular, you might have to pay 1 or 2 cents, right? Like it's not going to be awesome for like that awesome forever. We can make it like we can entrench awesomeness be far beyond the old system. And I think that's kind of what Erik's trying to do. He's just trying to say like, look, don't steal, don't scam, pay your taxes, and then everything else just free reign,
Yeah. So he put forward this very reasonable take, and yeah, you're probably right that he is a little bit more conducive to, as he puts it, he believes in a Hydra approach where he's kind of like, you need some people who are just coloring outside the lines a bit, and you need some people who are dealing with the regulators a bit. And but he probably is not at that far end. And yeah, it's actually an interesting point. Very well said. That it's interesting that he is the other side of the Overton window. Maybe that's already a sign that things are kind of slipping in that regard. So then you had BitBoy Crypto got in the mix here with a classic clip that we're gonna play for you on the show. It's only about a minute or so.
But I want this guy right here, Ryan Sean Adams. I don't know who the F you are because you're not important. But here he says, please, dear Lord, and any lawmakers or adults reading this tweet, just know BitBoy doesn't represent us either. Talk to Jay Stravinsky. Talk to Miller CWL. Talk to Coin Center. You know what? We are tired of people that look like this guy trying to run stuff. I don't represent the people. The fuck I don't. I'm the one who does. It's me. I'm the one out here putting the work in behind the scenes, trying to save crypto while these devils, Sam Bankman-Fried, Brian Armstrong, they're trying to permanently ruin it. This is not about money for me. I hope you guys understand this. I am here fighting for you. This guy with these freaking glasses on, this douchebag, is out here trying to tell you that only the suits know what to do. Only the suits. Only the people who have all the money. They're the ones who can determine what happens. No, our bill is for the people. And you're going to find this out. We've got the funding for it, and it's coming out. But guess what?
Wrap it there. Right. So they have BitBoy certainly getting in the mix, and I think it's a bit of overkill maybe on his part, or
Yeah.
certainly there's a bit of collateral damage going on in this whole
Yeah,
scenario. So
they're turning the freaking frogs gay. That's all I have to say. That
I mean,
he's definitely channeling Alex Jones there a little bit.
He's roasting Ryan Sean Adams, who is one of the hosts of the Bankless podcast, as for wearing glasses, which is a bit irrelevant to his point, but I can kind of see why
the audacity of the man for wearing spectacles.
But there's sort of, I have some sympathy for him in the sense that Ryan Sean Adams presents himself on his Twitter profile as they're not the sort of more scrappy, crypto at the end. They pay lip service to it. They do say, okay, this is the Wild West and we don't want crypto regulation and so on and so forth. But he was trying to sort of marginalize BitBoy's opinion. So there was obviously a bit of back and forth there. He wasn't just getting blasted out of nowhere. But on the other hand, okay, maybe whether or not he wears glasses is not really that relevant. What is relevant is that Sam Bankman-Fried, like we were saying before, is busy trying to sort of corrupt the narrative a little bit. And clearly BitBoy has realized that and is at least pushing back. So it is good, again, that maybe comes to the Overton window point again. You need more of that kind of energy in there to some degree, right?
Could it be someone other than BitBoy, please? Like, this is nonsense. So it's funny because just taking out of context, like not knowing who this dude is or anything, I mostly agree with the rant. Like, I have to say, I mostly agree with it to a certain extent. And I like the work that the bankless people are talking about. But I do have a little bit of a cat and mouse game with them because they, interview all these suits all the time. And I've been trying to get on their podcast forever just because it seems like a natural fit. And they just like won't do anything. Like they just like ghost me completely. So now every single time they do those like stupid like engagement posts about who would you like to be on the show next, I said like maybe someone who's actually at Bankless, and they just like I roast them constantly because they're just a little, like, oh, help you become Bankless in a high level, but like they won't speak to anyone who's actually living on crypto. So I do kind of roast them a little bit about that. I agree that with the suits thing for sure. Like, thing is, I like the suits in concept, right? I like this like professional intelligence. Erik Voorhees is the perfect suit in that way, in that he comes off polished, he knows what he's talking about, he knows how to negotiate, but he comes from a place of the man on the street, the people, like principles. And I think that when you call it the suits, you're calling out like Weasley people like SPF and stuff like that. That's who you're calling out, but you're accidentally calling out people like Erik Voorhees. But like, also, do you trust BitBoy to like represent the crypto community in front of regulators? Because I sure as hell don't. Like, I get that the stuff he's trying to talk about sounds, good to the people, but this guy's he's a little bit of a lunatic, but he's also an absolute scammer who like sues kids for like talking shit about him. And so like, I don't know if you ever saw, I forget the guy's name. I'm not into the cool kids club of crypto Twitter, but there's some kid who just said a little bit about, oh no, he shills scams. And then he was being sued as his wife was giving birth. He's having to deal with this stuff. And then they raised so much money that BitBoy like dropped the lawsuit. He's like the Craig Wright of like pure pump and dumpers. Just like a, I understand, like, please don't let BitBoy represent me either. I mean, I get that he's doing all this stuff that, I represent the people. Well, I'm the people. I'm more than anyone, more than a lot of people. I'm the people, in that this is what I use all the time. And he does not represent me at all. But as long as like, if his crazy rants get the government to stay off my back a little bit, I'm going to blow him a kiss, because I like that. But I don't trust him at all. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, well, I'm certainly not going to tell you that BitBoy is the good guy, except as far as I think he's the good guy in this situation. Perhaps. I mean, I think a bit of collateral damage on the bankless guys. They have also done fantastic work spreading the message of crypto. Obviously, being a public face, getting a lot of people on board. Okay, I might not agree with them about a lot of the crypto specifics, but in general, at least, like, we're all on team crypto here. Someone like SBF, I'm a bit more like, I don't even know if you're in team crypto, but I don't know if you're on it. At least for both the bankless guys and BitBoy, I kind of get a sense that they're more at least sitting on the right side of the fence to some degree, right? So in this case, I'm prepared to give BitBoy the benefit of the doubt, and it's just important that he is the one getting in there. Why? Because he also does have a good amount of money. He does have a YouTube channel with more than 1.5 million subscribers. His voice is getting out there to a lot of people. So, like we were talking about before about the Overton window, if left to its own devices, maybe things wouldn't this pushback wouldn't have shifted things quite significantly, which we're going to see in a second. So he does have a big voice, and he does have money and free time to fight some battles. So I'll be interested to see what he was saying there about the stuff that he's proposing or he's going to come out with, because you need the, like, if you didn't have him, or you didn't have someone like Erik Voorhees, or like you were suggesting about Roger Ver, if you don't have these people going into bat on this stuff, then there's going to be no one, and it's all going to crumple. So I've got to take my hat off to him for getting in the in the ring on this one.
Yeah. I mean, I'll be that guy as long. I mean, I'm a minnow. I'm like a nobody. But I just have to like pull some crazy stunt, where that's that guy who, and then all of a sudden I'm like the same, but like 10 times the followers on whatever, and that's fine.
That's right.
I think once you get past the 10,000 Twitter followers threshold, I think now you're like a legit, big fucking deal,
Yeah. But this is in the hundreds of thousands we're talking about here with BitBoy and Erik and whatever. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So we're definitely they're up there. This is some reach. So then what happened after this subsequently was that, sort of in response, I don't know, they might have been going to do it anyway, but as it sort of seems to have been, I don't know exactly what happened, but certainly as part of this background, Bankless, including Ryan Short Adams, decided that they would host a debate between Sam Bankman-Fried and Erik Voorhees on this topic, with the premise being those two articles that we just looked at, the Sam Bankman-Fried points and then the Erik Voorhees points. And they did a 2-hour and 11-minute debate covering off some of what was in those points. So I've got a clip here as well too. It's actually a meme clip that someone made, but I think to give the listeners a 1-minute summary straight from the horse's mouth of what exactly happened, this is what I'm going with. So take a look at this. This is Sam Bankman-Fried and Erik Voorhees debating about the DeFi and front ends. And I think you'll be able to tell, even if you're one of the audio listeners, who is who. So let's just hear this
that
clip.
did mean that, like, essentially assumed front ends by Americans targeting American retail had to be licensed. I think that could be reasonable. Which
Sam,
is that
if the question was, let's acknowledge that the email protocol will be permissionless as a protocol.
Yep.
But it was the law of the land in America that every email front-end provider required KYC from its users.
Yep.
Because under the justification that we do not want people sending information back and forth with terrorists.
Yep.
Where would you stand on that position?
Oh, I'd be strongly against that position.
Why?
Why would I be against it? Because I think it'd be like against freedom of speech. I think it'd be disenfranchising a lot of people. I think I would not trust in practice that it would do a good job. So I agree with you on all of that. Okay. I'm making a distinction here between, for instance, payments versus like derivatives contracts.
Why is Aave somehow different than email?
So, why is it different than email?
You argued so well and so passionately
Yeah.
to not block email with
Yes.
licensing and KYC. I loved hearing that.
Yep.
That filled my soul with joy. Such
Yeah.
good arguments. Why
Yeah.
does that not apply to financial transactions?
So, why does it not apply to financial transactions? I think there are a few things here. So, first of all,
All right, we got the Curb Your Enthusiasm
Chief,
outro
that did
there.
mean that,
So basically, to save you all 2 hours and 11 minutes, I've got the link on the slide. You can look up the debate yourself if you want. But I watched it all this morning, and let me tell you, that's pretty much what it comes down to. SBF spends a lot of time. He does most of the talking, basically. He probably fills up about 50% of the airtime in the episode or more between the four of them. And a lot of it is that's the most coherent bits that was in there, where he was just getting wrecked, where he spends most of the time kind of trying to make this weird argument that, well, we're going to have regulation and the most important thing is the protocol, so we should protect the protocol and just sort of sacrifice front ends or whatever to appease the regulator gods, which, like you were saying, Joel, is completely naive and nonsensical. And then Erik is basically saying to him, look, 99% of the users are going to use the front end. So 99% of the battle is, you need the protocol is the most important thing, yes, but almost as important and right up there too is that people can access it. Otherwise, we just become the same. And so he just kind of makes that case, and then it takes him 90 minutes to sort of work this way through to this quality analogy where he just completely slaughters him and just says, look, it's like email. And Sam admits, yes, obviously, if we'd had regulated email interfaces, it would have sucked and probably we'd still be using letters or whatever, right? That kind of idea. And it's just, this is the same thing. But the only reason Sam can't say it out loud, but it's like, my business is to be that licensed front end provider. So I want to do that. And I don't want to, push back and just say, no, crypto.
And I do think that if the world was different, if it was the Wild West, SBF would have one of the more successful DeFi front ends, unregulated, whatever. Like, I don't think, as much as I do think he's trying to do a little bit of regulatory capture here, I also don't think he needs it to be successful. But notice his arguments are all based on basically like societal assumptions, like, well, we can't do this, we all do this, and like that kind of stuff. Like, he knows that freedom of speech is important. I don't think he knows why. He just knows that we all say it. Oh, that's absolute. But money's different. Why is it different? Well, because, long story short, the government said so, right? But he doesn't actually know why it's different. Because, as I try to say all the time, is my good old friend Chuck Williams always says, all values belief. Money is a language for communicating value. Money is speech. It's speech that can't be faked, because you can lie. You can't lie with money. You can't say, I'm going to pay 10 times what I think this thing is worth just because, that'll fool them. Like, no one does that. It just doesn't work. It's honest speech to its purest level. And that's why it's like when you have bodily autonomy, like my body, my choice kind of stuff. Bodily autonomy is very important, but then your free thoughts and your freedom of expression of those thoughts. And free trade is just a real world application of free speech. It's still speech. If I send you, that was a good podcast, here, let me send you some Bitcoin Cash. So that's free speech right there. I told you I like you. I told you you have like a handsome eyebrows or whatever, but I did it with money, right? That's how I communicated it. And so that's the free speech argument, but somehow it's different because it's too real. Because like, well, we can like, it's like, well, then you start going, well, I believe in free speech, but not hate speech. You can express any ideas you want, but you just can't say like bigoted and terrible ideas, even though they're still ideas. But those are like, because they carry violent connotations with them, and they could, okay, and then you start eventually have no free speech, right? And I think that that's kind of the point that Erik is making, is that this is all just freedom. This is all just speech. And you should be able to do basically whatever you want as long as you're not hurting other people, which is a great principle of libertarian philosophy. But also, I don't think anyone fundamentally disagrees with that in the world, really. Some people disagree with the implications of that. They're like, well, but then if we did that, we'd have to this, and I don't think that's a good idea. But like, no one really believes that like do whatever you want as long as you're not hurting people is wrong.
No, some
You know?
some people do think that's wrong, mate. I don't know
Yeah,
about you,
they
but I've
do.
met there is actually authoritarian people, and there's unfortunately quite a lot of them who just have this sort of paternalistic, I know what's best and I'm gonna tell people what to do.
Well, the thing is, they, at their core, like when you start, like I think that anyone should be able to basically do what they want as long as they don't hurt other people. A lot of people will say, yeah, absolutely. But then, well, but what if they're doing drugs and they're hurting themselves? Well, then they start going back on that over time, like really quickly. But like, there's very few people that at their hardcore say, like, at the start, I don't believe people should be free to do whatever they want as long as they're not harming people. I believe that people should only be free to do very certain things, and those must be determined by either social consensus or the right of kings or whatever. Like, there's very few people that have that like philosophy lined from no freedom at the start. Most people are just hypocrites, which I think is a little more, a little less disheartening, right? But you know, that's what I'm saying. Clearly,
We're all hypocrites to a certain extent.
Yeah, of course. But I think that Sam Bankman-Fried believes, I don't think he believes too deeply or cares or thinks about it. I think he believes in freedom of expression. And I just don't think he extended it to freedom of financial expression.
Yeah, I guess. Anyway, everyone can sort of make it their own and what they will. We've done a pretty big segment on all this, and all the links are there, so you can check into this and read up on your own time if you want to know all the full details. But it's very important to keep this kind of context in mind, because this, I think, is a bit of a statement of where the industry is at, and that we'll see in 5 years very strongly the outcome of this, whether things worked out for the better and there was sensible sort of regulation, or at least things were like Erik made a lot of arguments. Look, how about we come back to this in a few years, because clearly even he got SBF to admit that he wasn't really an expert in all of it, or that he wouldn't necessarily be in the best position to regulate it. And he said, look, okay, you're in the thick of this all day, every day, and you're still not sure what to make of it. The regulators definitely are not going to know, what the right thing is. So we'll see how it plays out. But this is very heavily the context of the industry, crypto as a whole, I think. And it's very important that the listeners are at least aware of this and thinking about this, because I don't necessarily we do cover it on this show, but we're not deep in the weeds of all this drama and regulation and whatever so much on a daily basis. But right now it's very in the zeitgeist, I guess we'd say. Okay, next thing is the BCH Bull has launched. So we've been covering it on this show a bunch of times about any hedge and how you can lock your Bitcoin Cash to USD or to any other value, or you can do decentralized speculation and leveraging, and then it's out, it's here, it works. Congratulations to General Protocols for launching this product. It's a big milestone, not only because it's actually going to be a very powerful product, and also because, in exact contrast to all that debate before, it is just all permissionless, on-chain, crypto native kind of thinking and innovation. But also because, to me, it's a big sign that the Bitcoin Cash ecosystem is turning the corner a bit and is now worried less about arguing about the past and more about building a better future. And this is the start of more UTXO DeFi applications, which are a mostly unexplored area of cryptocurrency. And this is definitely some industry leading stuff here. Not only have they got their app out, which you can check out at bchbull.com and try it for yourself. I recommend everybody does go and lock $1 for a week or something, even just to test it out and see what we're talking about here. But also because Paytaka have already built it into their wallet, and I know those teams were coordinating and there was some discussion, right? But the general idea is that anybody and other wallets, maybe Coinbase or maybe BitPay or Exodus or whatever other wallets will start integrating these things too. Of course, it is a Bitcoin Cash specific thing. It's not going to be just a copy paste job from any other chain. But if this kind of idea can build a bit of momentum, it's going to be a standout thing for Bitcoin Cash, a reason for people to come to the chain specifically for Bitcoin Cash. So I don't know, how much do you know about this AnyHedge stuff, Joel? Do I need to give you a bit more background on that, or are you able to comment?
Yeah, a little more background would be nice. I've heard it mentioned a few times. I've kind of cursorily looked in, but like when you start to get to the permissionless contract part, so it's not associated with Smart BCH at all, is that right?
No. So this is completely separate to Smart BCH, and that's a sort of, obviously, as you know, Bitcoin Cash kind of it's playing both sides of the fence, where it's got the Smart Bitcoin Cash stuff, which is a bit of a flaming wreck right now. But if that can sort itself out, well, then it's kind of in on all the EVM stuff, right? But at the same time, it's also carrying on the original Bitcoin legacy of we could actually build a lot of this stuff on chain. So we've got cash tokens coming in the next upgrade, probably in the test version is going to lock in on November and it'll come in May. But before that, they have this AnyHedge, and the basic idea is that they've made some scripting stuff in BCH so that you and I, if we're can lock a certain amount of BCH each into a decentralized contract that takes a price feed from an oracle and then dishes out the money to us at expiry. So what that means is, if I want $10 of Bitcoin Cash in a week and you want to gamble because you're a DeFi degen or a CeFi degen even, I put in $10, you put in $10. In 1 week's time, I get back $10 and you get back the rest. So if the price goes up, I get back less BCH Satoshis, but I still have my $10 and you get back the profit that you've made from being a smart speculator, right? And the same works in reverse. If the price goes down, I still get my you have essentially paid me, I get back my $10. So if I'm a merchant or whatever, I can it's like a decentralized stable coin, right? Sort of similar to DAI or something like that, except the only backing is Bitcoin Cash. Is the backing of everything, and there's no that's it. It's kind of like DAI, except everything is Bitcoin Cash, and it's all directly built on chain into the protocol, so you can't get rugged, basically.
Yeah. Is there any smart contracts involved in this?
Well, yeah, there is. Yeah, it's like not smart contracts in the sense of like EVM smart contracts, except not in this, they're UTXO ones rather than it's not copy pasted from some other EVM chain.
Yeah, and that's probably the biggest area I'm going to have to like get seriously educated on is, obviously the surface level thinking of back in the day was like, oh, these are all the money chains, but they're like, you have to push a button to do the thing. Whereas then you got Ethereum and it gets to where it auto does things. And then we're getting back into like, there's like graying of the areas between like functionalities, like what happens here, what happens there. And, it's kind of, so like, what would be, this is where I start to like, this has happened also like, because BSV is doing a whole lot of like data type stuff and contract type stuff. And where my ignorance lies in what is the separating factor between stuff like that and stuff like Smart BCH that is a little bit more what we come to understand as like a smart chain. Like what's the difference in there? And part of that also comes to the new, not out yet, but whatever, the Dash platform working, not yet having smart contract capability, but doing data contracts, which supposedly, from what I've been told by smarter people, is like 90% of the stuff that people want smart contracts for could just be done with like data contracts. You don't actually need smart contracts for most of that. So that's where like my, I got into the space because of freedom and money, right? And freedom and sound money. And where I'm starting to have to become kind of a huge nerd on this stuff and learn about the intricacies of, all the different scripts and capabilities. But yeah, I think that's
Yeah.
I'll have to try it out, and I'll have to dig into, the guts of it, so to speak, the guts of the bull, to like find out what actually makes what happen and in which way, and how can you get rugged? Oh, you can't, but like based on what, and just all that kind of stuff. It would be a fun little, rabbit hole to go down. Again, put another thing on top of my plate. But one thing, as far as you talk about turning the corner, it's something that's like, I don't know the answer to, but I've noticed that the payment coins have struggled. I think everyone's noticed that. I mean, obviously in the hype cycle, there's something that happens. The thing is, like, no cryptocurrency for payments other than Bitcoin gets anything significant for transaction volume. And all the payment chains together are well under 1 million transactions a day. And then you have like Ethereum, just like, I don't know, even like Polygon, I think, does like 1 million or more a day, right? Like just one of the side things of Ethereum, just because they're very different things. And so, but part of that is like, do you chase the herd? No bull pun intended, but like, do you chase the herd and be like, oh, everyone wants DeFi, or everyone wants, NFTs, or just chase that stuff, and then you end up being like Johnny come lately, me too, and just lose your original purpose and fail at the new thing too? Or like, do you do slow and steady wins the race on the original vision? Or is there some kind of like an in-between thing? And one thing I've sort of come to the conclusion of is you do need to do a lot more things to pad. There needs to be something around just the money, the sending and receiving of the money, because no one ever sends and receives money and that's it. Like there's always at least a communication protocol around that, where it's just like, what's your Venmo? And then, oh, like your little, what's your handle? There's like that whole data thing there. And then like the purpose, like the memo that goes with it, what was this for? And then your friends list, and just like all that social aspect to just basic payments needs to exist too. But then you also got like, what do you do with money? Oh, you do like you gamble on things sometimes, or you pay, you split payments on something, like you send someone money and it goes to 5 different things. There's a million things you do that the functionality of the payment isn't just I send you money. It's like other stuff. And so I've kind of evolved to like, while payment chains should be getting better and better at their core thing, there's a little squishiness in like what they need to evolve to be able to do that's adjacent to just the payment case, that's around it, but isn't like, let's make, monkeys. Like we don't have to make monkey drawings and do that, but you don't necessarily need to. But
yeah, well, as far as that goes, I mean, I think, the Bitcoin Cash, and one of the things I'm very pleased about and very excited about is that it's kind of firing in a few different cylinders. You've still got the core money, you've still got the sound money, you've still got the proof of work, you've still got merchant adoption, you've still got all that stuff. Then you got the smart Bitcoin Cash stuff, which I said is a bit of a wreck, but if that can kind of, and now you have this sort of third, like you're saying, Dash or like BSV or whatever, maybe firing off on some like kind of combo angle where you have some stuff to augment the actual money case with some smarter technical stuff without going full-blown token ecosystem and blah 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 blah, right? So I like that Bitcoin Cash is doing a little bit of each, and I think that they can complement each other and power each other up basically. And definitely another time, we'll have to do another episode sometime where we can talk about all the differences, but you can sort of think of it in like, maybe those 3 categories in terms of there's the smart contract. It's like EVM stuff, and it's all kind of tied to the account-based model, and the tooling and infrastructure is kind of one category, and that's what smart Bitcoin Cash is in, and EVM and whatever. And then there's kind of the dumb, central cash coin type thing popularized by Bitcoin initially. And then as far as these UTXO contracts come, we can sort of split head. I mean, I would obviously advocate that cash tokens and this BCH Bull stuff, I think, is industry leading stuff. but it's similar but a bit different to the like BSV thing of let's just shove a whole bunch of data into op return and call it a day. Like that'll be great. And then you have the the Dash stuff. I haven't looked into that, so I would need to look into that to find what is going on there. But I'm aware they're getting there on the Dash platform or Dash Evolution or whatever it's called now too, right? So that's an interesting little. That's certainly underpriced in the market. I think all these projects cracking away on this kind of stuff are not the ones in the big 20. Just coming back to what we were talking about before, actually, which is anyway, that's just occurred to me. Yeah, kind of interesting.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on. We got a lot we got to get through in the last half hour, unless you got a bit of extra time, because
yeah,
I don't know if you're on the clock, but
at some point it would be nice, maybe towards the end, I'd like to bring up the Bitcoin.com map and the way it got out of the wallet allegedly, or it's hard to access in that, and like
yeah.
Other than that, at the end we can go lightning round on this. Lightning
Okay, all
network round where it just like doesn't work. Sorry, keep going.
All right. Elon buys Twitter. So yeah, we don't need to do this in all great detail, but this is another sort of background context layer to what's going on in the world. I've got a couple slides here about that. So after a lot of back and forth and a lot of I'm going to buy it, okay, I'm not going to buy it, okay, this is a different amount of money, okay, I'm suing you for frauding me with how many bots there were. Oh, okay, turns out you guys actually had better lawyers than me. whatever happened. At the end of the day, Elon did end up buying Twitter. He showed up at HQ the other day holding a sink, which mostly seemed to be an opportunity for him to make the pun, let this sink in on Twitter. He then immediately fired the CEO, the CFO, and the head of legal compliance, which, if you ask me personally, is a very promising start. He certainly has never been accused of somebody who's going to tread lightly and come in and just, okay, however you guys were doing it kind of thing. But came in and just already draining the swamp, if I can put it that way. Not, that's a bit politically charged, but and he but at the same time, it's not all hunky dory. He promised, like Trump released a message saying that he had been promised an unban on Monday, so I guess we'll find out tomorrow. And then Elon posted saying he was going to set up a council to review lifetime unbannings and stuff like that, and that no action would be taken until this supposed council had convened and assessed, controversial issues such as unbanning Donald Trump, right? So whether or not they're going to actually deliver on that, who knows? And just as a little side nugget in here, you also have Dogecoin has gone through the roof now that it's basically Elon sentiment indicator, and it's in the top. It's like number 8 now. I think it's pumped about 120% in the last couple of days as a result of this thing. So what do you make of Elon?
The Lord of Chaos himself at some point needs to just say, I'm done with Doge, it's trash, and just watch it crumble. Because I think that Doge pumps based on the what if. It's not based on anything real, obviously. It's not like, well, I really think Elon's just like, well, but what if? And at some point that the memes, the game stonks kind of vibe is going to die out. And so, screw Doge, whatever. I don't care. I don't have any rancor against Doge. It's just the people on Twitter who take it too seriously annoy me. This dude, I think that Elon is quickly going to start to realize that this whole Twitter thing is harder than it looks, because one of the problems with centralized protocols is just all the stuff that goes with. Like if it's your database, you have to store all the content that's on there, and it's your responsibility for stuff, and you're legally liable for stuff, for what people say. And you're, if you run a company that is facilitate terrorism or something, it's like, well, that's on you. All these problems happen. You have to do a council of moderation. I mean, poor guy. Like, I just feel like I felt bad for the lizard lord himself, Mark Zuckerberg, when he was talking about all his stuff about like well, like they have a counterterrorism, like Facebook has a Meta has a counterterrorism unit that rivals that of some of the largest countries and stuff, just because like they have to, because they're in the business now. And it's just like, on the one hand, you have like this like the new oligarchs of the future coming in. You know, the social media people are like, Elon Musk is more powerful than most world leaders right now, I would say. But on the other hand, a lot of this stuff like Twitter is more important than like, you know, the government of Bulgaria, for example. Just pulled a random one, so don't come at me, Bulgarians. But like, on the other hand, a lot of this power they don't want. They don't want the influence. They don't want to do that. Even, you know, even a lizard like Zuckerberg is not going to. He doesn't want it. He just wants to like build his thing bigger and connect more people and make more money. Like, he doesn't want that aspect of it, and Elon even less. And I think that now that he's in it, he has to do this. His problem solving brain combined with his fuck it attitude is going to quickly be like, there's got to be a better way of doing this. And just like, he's going to start thinking like, how do we not have to deal with this bullshit that I have to deal with? Not just how do we like do it better, but like, I think he's starting that way. He's like, oh, more free speech, more equal here and there. We'll you know, get rid of the bots. Like at some point, I think that what he's been talking about is more like curating specific experiences based on specific people, and, you know, making it more, not you just send like, not a uniform thing where you have to rule the land, but just making it more of a person specific thing. And so I have high hopes that this is going to go well, but it's also like he's running into a lot of barriers by being a centralized entity. I think he's going to figure out quite soon, maybe within 5 or so years, that you got to start decentralizing. You got to start not being responsible for everything. You just push pieces out, you know, maybe the main front end, turn Twitter into a protocol like Jack Dorsey wanted to do and wants to do. Just turn it into a decentralized protocol, and then just have then Twitter's the main front end to this protocol. And you can kind of like do that, but then all you do is just like add filters instead of censors, right? Add filters where you just don't see that if you don't want to. And it's much more user directed than this council of things, and just like, breathe easy, you know? So I think that's where he's going to have to go to. And just right now, it's going to be a nightmare for a little while, poor guy.
Yeah, well, I agree with you. I think he's bitten off a bit more than he could. I mean, the whole back and forth with him getting involved seemed to be a bit like he got a bit carried away and thought, wow, this is cool, free speech. I need to fix this shit. I'm the top poster. Donald Trump has been banned. Justin Bieber and Barack Obama don't give a shit. So I'm already the number one poster. And my tweets are getting screwed around with. And like, what is all these bots? And this is garbage. And like, we need to this is a problem that needs fixing. And so on top of getting humanity to outer space and fixing the entire world's energy grid and implanting chips into everybody's brains and building tunnels under Los Angeles and trolling Twitter and producing DJ mixes and meeting up with what's her name, Grimes, like, you know, somewhere in there he was like, all right, let's just add another one into the mix. And I think, yeah, it is basically one too far. So I don't know how much influence he's going to be able to directly have, but he's going to figure out that he can't handle it all at some point, I guess. And yeah, Twitter is going in the opposite direction, or was at least up until this point. Like you're saying, it did used to have multiple front end clients and stuff like that, and that all got stripped away. But maybe he can make steps to reintroduce that. I don't know. I think it's
in my theory on that is the reason why it didn't work is because there's no money in that. And that's the genius of crypto is you have something like the original Bitcoin protocol, which actually self-funds a lot of it. And I think in the future, like making a Twitter on the blockchain has been like a trope for a long time, but we got to do it at some point. Like if you just had to pay on-chain transaction fees or some transaction fees to tweet anything, all the bots gone overnight, just gone, because they're volume based. They're just like taking advantage of that because no one's clicking those links. I mean, like almost no one. And then being able to paywall, like I would encourage everyone to contrast the Twitter experience with the Twitch experience. And Twitch is a BSV Twitter clone, and it's a shill dome. It's BSV. It's annoying, but they're doing some interesting stuff there with like you get paid for likes and you pay to tweet and Twitch or whatever. And then my favorite part is you can set something called the troll toll, where you can toll individual instead of blocking a user who's annoying you. You can just put a price for them to interact with you. So then if they're going to pay the toll to talk smack to you, then you're going to be happy that they're insulting you because you're getting money. And I like that concept. And I think that like just paying like dust fees to be able to post at all is going to kill almost all the bots. And then for bigger celebrities who you would, still pay something for, they can just set like pay 10 USD to tweet to me. I mean, you could cut down a lot, but like a lot of times, like every time you see a celebrity tweet something and they don't turn off commenting, it's just like chaos in there. It's just like so much people just blah 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 blah, just saying anything. Just it's not even insulting and mean. I mean, a lot of it is. It's just like no, there's too much volume. It's not valuable. But if you set that like a $10 toll, I think that would like tighten up that quality, so it'd have like a quality feed. And also imagine if you got to earn that $10 toll, and then all of a sudden you could just be you don't have to shill a newsletter or some nonsense to be. You can just tweet and that's it, and that's how you make your money if you're good enough, right? Like imagine Andreas Antonopoulos, he wouldn't have had to do any. He could just tweet, the Bitcoin protocols are about, and then like people, yes, and then that's his living right there. He doesn't have to do anything else. I mean, big ideas. Elon, hit me up. I got a lot more.
Yeah, love it, and I really hope this is the direction that things are moving in. So next, we'll see. We'll see. Elon, best of luck. But yeah, I don't know. Big battle to fight on that front too. Anyway, best of luck with that. All right, so we got another slide here that I just put. We ended up with loads of content. I just was trying to put a bit more background, but I've just got a few of these stories that I noticed this week. We've had MasterCard announces a crypto integration with some banks via something called Paxos. Visa has filed some patent information around opening a crypto wallet, and PayPal announced they were going to fine $2,500 for misinformation, which they then backed off of after everybody was like, "This is bullshit." And then they reinstated it once everybody was no longer upset about it. And so I've just wrapped this all together under the heading "Legacy is here." And let's actually combine it with the next slide. Is meme of the week, which is a girl holding a FPOS point of sale machine, and it just says, "I'm sorry, sir, your card has been declined due to your political views." And in light of everything we've talked about, I think it's just comes to the point that all this crypto stuff, it's starting to play for very high stakes, because the pressure is ramping up in terms of payment censorship, in terms of deplatforming, in terms of existing financial institutions getting involved in crypto and or adding their own rules and regulations. Like this is it. This is big stuff, everyone. That it just all seems to be coalescing in that direction. None of this is random. I don't know what you think of the state of the world right now, but yeah. I'm seeing it like crypto is kind of at the center of everything going on, to my mind at least.
Yeah, we're getting there for sure. It's kind of crazy to see. I think a lot of this is all, I mean, I don't want to be a Pompliano here, but this is all quite bullish. I think that everyone's jumping into this stuff. As far as the regulations and things, I think that it's becoming a lot more obvious why decentralized crypto and using it in a decentralized way is better. And I made this little short TikTok or whatever the other day about the USDC thing, because apparently USDC costs 40% more to send than DAI, because of all the block lists and stuff, the smart contract that's are you sending to these? No. And just the extra computation literally costs more in gas fees. And it's a fantastic allegory for regulation. Just as I talked, to bring it full circle to the BitLicense thing, it's not that, well, you can do this or you can't do that. No, you can do whatever you want. Just this costs a lot more money. And that's what we're going to see. PayPal, insurance companies, right? They take a hit every time they have to pay out a claim, but they calculate through their actuaries do probability calculations to make sure that what they're charging in premiums is worth the occasional payout and stuff. It's like a very fine science. And so I'm sure you could calculate your statistical cost of using PayPal. Like, obviously, it becomes more heavily weighted if you are like you talking smack on Twitter all the time, right? But but still, it could be like, this is the extra cost associated. It just randomized, not really randomized, but it doesn't always hit. And then this is how much Visa is going to have to cost because they need to do all this compliance and regulation nonsense, and they have to pay the bills somehow. And just versus all that versus just on chain, and it's pure. Now, on the other side, I do think a lot of times for certain applications, some of these payment apps might end up actually being cheaper than on-chain, because on-chain is you're sending the actual thing, whereas their internal like micro lightning network of a database just sending back and forth, they don't have to actually send a real Bitcoin transaction, so that might be cheaper as just a small side. But as a whole, freedom is not free, but it's cheap. It's a lot cheaper to run under a free system than it is under like a captured system, because then there's so much friction, and every time there's like friction, every time then there's money flying out of there. You're just losing money for every little thing, and just the more friction, the more money you lose. And it just, the fact that you can send and receive and use cryptocurrency so easily without centralized third parties, it's not that you can, it's that it's so easy. That's going to be the differentiating factor, because then you're just going to see, pay all this money for this experience, don't pay the money for this experience, and that's it.
People vote with their wallets. Yeah, speaking of those costs, so I've got stat of the week here is US federal debt is at $750 billion for interest payments alone, which is the same size as the annual US military budget. And it is, of course, busily going through the roof. Yeah, and it is busy going through the roof. So it will be, of course, twice as expensive as the military within a few years, probably. So this escalating system of debt and costs is really, really, really adding up. And then I've got community comment of the week here from Luke Martin. What they tell you crypto regulation means: less scams, less hacks, and clarity. What crypto regulation actually means: can't trade on the best exchanges, can't receive certain airdrops, tokens can't pass value to holders, can't buy new tokens, less privacy. That's basically the summary of what we were talking about. You're just adding friction and creating nonsense. And at the end of the day, somebody's going to have to pay that cost. And maybe the average person, well, it's getting harder and harder to say that the average person doesn't care, because increasingly, like whatever it is, 15% of the adult population in various major countries owns crypto. So people are at least interested and buying into the concept emotionally, as well as financially a little bit. But as those costs ramp up and up and up, and the difference becomes starker and starker, eventually cost of living pressures increase as more and more people are like, what are we doing with all this financial bullshit? Why am I constantly getting I saw people protesting the cost of living increases the other day when I was out and about, and I wasn't quite in the mindset for it, but one day I'm going to stop and talk to those people and say, hey, why do you think the cost of living is going up? And then give them a bit of the crypto shill. If they're going to try and shill me their political whatever, I'm going to say, but how about instead of voting, you could actually do things differently, and you don't need to vote. You can just vote them out, or you can vote as well. Oh, I love you. How about this? I'll give you a vote and you switch to crypto. Like, everybody wins. I think,
which is a side note, I would be fun if one of those protesters just had a sign that had that meme of like, damn, why shit costs money, and that's it. That would be a fantastic way of just communicating. But the switch to crypto thing is more of a rabbit hole, especially depending on the crypto, because like people talk about price changes. It's like, well, the price went down, so isn't it worse? It's like, and I think that you need some sort of stability. Like, you need to start charting, for example, let's say the Bitcoin Cash bottom, like the bottom of each bear market, and how it's like, because there's a lot of like this fluff of the speculation on top that goes up and down, and that's like scary to people. You got to maybe start using any hedge. I don't know. But like the point is like, I think if people realize that the dollar is crashing, the best fiat, right, is crashing like 10% a year or more or something, depending on the year. It's just down, 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 down. You're just losing money. Everything's more expensive. People are starting to figure that out. Like before, inflation was either like a economist thing or, to a certain extent, like variant, like a libertarian thing. Like no one talked about inflation other than gold bugs. And then now it's like trending on Twitter frequently. Like everyone knows what inflation is now. It's real. And so I think that, yeah, the dollar has always been the safe haven. And now that the dollar is just like every other country's shitcoin, like I grew up, I was cleaning out my grandmother's house after she passed, and she had all these old pesos. And like, what are these, mommy? And she's like, oh, no, they're no good anymore. Like in the mid 90s, we got rid of those and started using these other ones. And it's like, oh, like
the scam got reset. That's just what it is. It's just a new ICO launch, the government version.
And well, that's what I was saying. And then it was at the time 7 pesos to the dollar, but what it actually was 7,000. They just cut off the zeros because we're gonna do that. And it's like it's like eCash moving the desk. Sorry, don't get mad at me, eCashers. But like it's some little trickery like that, and then it's like, what is it today? Like the last I checked, it was like a year or two ago. It's like 28 pesos to the dollar, and it's just like, oh, so that's going down, and then like, is there anything that's going up anymore? And then that's where Peter Schiff comes in and starts ranting about stuff. But then, like, I tried to live off of gold before I tried to live off of crypto. It didn't work. So, yeah, we need
Peter
something
Schiff. When's he gonna get it? That's what it's one of the most amazing. What's it called when you have a position and it's like you're not cognitive dissonance exactly, because I think he can't. It's like a rationalization that he has been shilling for 25 years or whatever the fuck, that everybody start bailing out of the dollar system and, start living and transacting in free other ways. And it's happening in front of his eyes at an explosive rate, at a rate he cannot deny, and he's seen for over a decade. And yet, just because it isn't happening the exact way that would benefit him or that he has been saying, he just can't get over this tiny little hill onto like, wait,
5
you guys
years.
are fucking doing it.
Within the next half decade. 20 hours ago, Peter Schiff tweeted, gold is the best money man has come up with. Now, because of blockchain, you can create a digital currency backed by gold for a superior form of money instead of paper currency or cryptocurrency backed by nothing. And he's shilling some gold-backed crypto. It's happening. Like it's starting to happen. Like the thing is, I've also sort of come a little bit like every time I read Peter Schiff's stuff, if I just ignore the fact that he's hating on something that I like, he's making a lot of good points. A lot of them are about BTC. A lot of good points. There are a lot of about BTC in particular, but there's some that's like all of crypto. I think that crypto needs to earn his respect. Honestly, like crypto, the potential of the technology is huge. A lot of the fundamentals are sound on some of them, but like it needs to like get to that next level of being undeniable, and then he's there. Well, like right now he already sees the technology is like super like important, but then he's just like, well, it needs to be backed by gold and stuff. And it's like, okay, well, why? Is it the scarcity and all? And eventually he's going to just realize that that's like the extra step in there. That's like the physical asset. No, it's just like the units and their provable digital scarcity are what are valuable, and the utility of that, the actual gold, is just like a stepping stone. It's like training wheels for him. It's just like, when you first start drinking alcohol and it's just like, it tastes kind of weird, and you just like water it down with a bunch of sugary stuff. It's just like, that's kind of what he's doing right now. He's getting used to it.
Taking him a very, very, very long time, but I agree with you. In the end, he'll get there, or he'll just get bypassed by the world, which is what's happening. I mean, what's actually going to happen, unfortunately, is that probably BTC is going to blow up, and he's going to get the biggest dunk on his son as like, I told you this whole Bitcoin thing was stupid, as it all falls apart, just because his son, unfortunately, couldn't see suffers from the exact problems that Peter Schiff has correctly identified, that he's a bit young and stupid. And so he's going to get a huge dunk on him and be like, I told you so. But the fact is, like, DeFi or crypto is going to win, just maybe not BTC. But anyway, all right. Last slide, or second last slide, whatever. We got message to the community. So this is your lightning round. You can also have a message to the community, but if you want to throw in anything else, we've only got 5 minutes left if you want to leave on time. So it's up to you. I got it as long as you want, but lightning round.
Yeah,
with it.
I'm not in. I mean, I can't be here all day, but I don't have a heart out either. Yeah. So the thing that did kind of hit me. So I've been trying to get back into the crypto adoption game, where I'm not just like, I'm gonna explore new stuff, I'm gonna run my show, I'm just like, let's get back to using this stuff. Like, not that I personally stopped, but like, let's get the movement going. And crypto maps are a fascinating thing, like merchant maps. That's one of the most underappreciated and overhyped things in all of crypto, is the merchant adoption map. It's such a catalyst to like a nostalgic catalyst. Look at all the markers we have. And like, all the maps have been super inaccurate as far as I've known. There've been a few that were really well curated in some areas, but like, it's been the constant thing. However, you do kind of need to know where you can spend your money. There's no Visa map, because you can kind of spend it everywhere. And I think that one of these, this is my like mass adoption thesis for today, as I'm like learning more about it. You need a wallet, like an all-in-one wallet, and you need to be able to buy from the wallet, probably, because a lot of people are going to do that. Not everyone's going to earn crypto like me yet. You're going to need to be able to, I think, stake, as in find a way to like earn money on your money in there. And right now, I mean, Thorchain, the reason that when their whole thing went out of consensus was because they were testing like a Bitcoin interest bearing account kind of thing on Thorchain. So all something like the Bitcoin.com wallet would have to do is just implement the Thorchain, and eventually you could just build that right in. You wouldn't have to build anything new. And obviously the revenue from the interest bearing account thing, whatever, is from trading fees and liquidity and all that kind of stuff. So buy in wallet, stake in wallet, spend in wallet. And the spend in wallet's always the tricky part. When you have stuff like the Dash Direct app that lets you spend at like hundreds of thousands of merchants through this like gift card workaround, but it works really seamlessly. Or, Cake Wallet has it too for like Monero and Litecoin and stuff like that. And then the same company's coming out with like a digital like Visa card thing that you can buy also without KYC. You could just get, and then once it's over, you get a new one. You can plug that into your like your Apple Pay or whatever, and then just pay like that everywhere. That solves most of the problems. It is still a workaround though. And so I think what you need to do is you need to have a built-in like pay anywhere kind of workaround, but also like the merchant map was one of the things that the Bitcoin.com wallet did so well. And I'm kind of coming full circle on this because Dash has a merchant map in it right now too, but it is like very few listings right now. I'm trying to work on getting people to add more to that. But then I realized that the Bitcoin.com wallet took out the merchant map. So first off, do you know anything about this? Second, what the hell? Third, is there a Bitcoin Cash wallet that has that merchant map in it anywhere that you know of?
From what I understand is that it wasn't removed on purpose. Like, it was just someone wasn't paying attention and it was a bug. And as soon as it was brought to Corbyn's attention, he was like, okay, we're looking into it and working on it. And it should be fixed soon. But it's also like, it's just like a WebView plugin. Like, you can go to maps.bitcoin.com and it's always up and available. I don't know any other map that or any other wallet that has a map built in though.
Yeah, that would be really important, I think, to just put that in every wallet, because otherwise, like, every friction step, just like the friction is what like grinds and money flies away. It's just like you lose users for every second, every extra distance that your eyes have to move, every extra button you have to press, you just lose people. And so it just I think essentially it was an accident. I think it's being fixed or whatever. But yeah, basically you're right, and I think one of the
big innovations which people need to bring to this whole map space, and there isn't a ton of competition on it, but maybe there will be more. I think there are certainly opportunities to improve the map. It needs to just be a bit more of an automated type of thinking, because part of the problem with the map is curating it and checking that like once you do all the work and everything to get somebody on board, well then what if nobody goes in there and pays in crypto? What if they start, the staff turns over at a restaurant every 2 weeks, and then in 3 weeks time or in 2 months time everybody's forgotten about it, and blah 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 blah. I think for this kind of thing to be really successful, somebody is going to have to pick a dedicated physical area where they can attack the problem. So a good one would be like Townsville in Australia. Shout out to Bitcoin Jason and the great work he's been doing there. You got to start there. And then secondly, you need to build some tools so that when somebody comes in with ideally any wallet, but hopefully, maybe you would start with or add in specific wallet integrations, and they pay in a certain currency. Obviously, in this case, I'm Bitcoin Cash, but it could be done with other cryptos too. Then that updates the map. This merchant is active, right? And you would have to know with
Reinventing the wheel.
That's right. And
because AnyPay did this. And it's one of the biggest, like AnyPay is the best crypto point of sale system out there that I know of. However, they had this awesome map which color coded based on how recently someone paid a merchant, and kind of almost gamified it. And they just got rid of it because they got bored with it. I'm like, oh Jesus, guys, come on.
Well, I don't know why they did that. Did they have some problem with it, or what was the issue?
They just got bored with it. I mean, I think that they struggled to find the correct revenue source for their hobby, which turned into a company. And I think they're still figuring that out. But regardless of that, this is where we get into the I guess full circle to the any hedge and stuff like that, like the growing the data section of payment cryptos and why you kind of need that. So when we're talking about, let's talk about the all-in-one wallet, right? Like a fiat buying front end is just you got to interface with the company. It just is what it is. As far as staking, now you do need to have staking as part. Like ultimately, there should be some sort of a protocol-based way of doing that, because otherwise you're relying on a centralized company, or in the case of Thorchain, well, it's a different chain, or it's a different, you're interfacing with a different blockchain system. But still, it's like, okay, you got that. But then it's like, well, how do I send to you? Well, do I just bookmark your like long, ugly address somewhere? Like, no, maybe I need like an alias or something. And like, who runs that? And is there a database of those? And can I make data associations between you and all these friends that I pay, where now I can tell I paid you 8 times this month, but it's different addresses every time. But there's something that doesn't compromise your privacy, because it just keeps track of my friends, how many times I paid them, but it doesn't leak onto the general blockchain, so then everyone knows. So that data part has to kind of be included somehow. And then of course, privacy, right? You have to figure out how to do privacy and kind of put that in. But then you go to the merchant map, right? Like, where is the merchant data stored? Who's storing that? And how do you access that? And so I'm sure if you had some sort of like a data contract or something, for example, where everything was on, like, let's just say for the argument's sake, like the Dash platform is where all these merchant listings are and this kind of thing. And every single time you go and pay at one of these merchants, it says like, did you pay with Dash or whatever? You go, yes. And then that updates the state transition and sends to interacts with that. And then that kind of data goes in. And so then it's something that everyone can kind of interact with. Everyone who has this sort of open source map plugin can plug into there and then be like, and then you start using even like the Dash platform data for something like Edge Wallet that's multi-coin. And then there's a second little thing that's like, which coin did you pay it? You go Bitcoin Cash, and they're beep. And then it updates into that part of the system. And then you just kind of get to see like a lot more data sharing. And then you can just easily query that data by just having a little backend filter of like only show like the most updated, the most frequently used businesses. So people can be sure of that. And it's like newbie mode. And then there's like adventure mode. And you could hit adventure mode, which just shows the places that maybe it's been months. And it's like, well, do you want to go talk to them? Do you want to go refresh them? And then, you can kind of have like a map that works for you. But all that has to sort of be baked in to like one app. But also, like, you can't centralize everything around one app. A lot of these data functions and things have to be kind of part of the coin experience. And that's what all this like data stuff, why we need to evolve. We don't need to evolve to be, NFT degen factories or whatever. But we do need to evolve to at least provide the data requirements that come around a fulfilling and accurate payments experience.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is a big sort of open opportunity, which I know you and I both would have preferred that in a different world where the block size war went another way. This is what everybody was focused on in 2016, and by now we had fucking 6 solutions. But that's not the way it went, and we're gonna just have to solve these problems in the next 6 years instead of in the last 6 years. So, I mean that is what it is. Did you have a message to the Bitcoin Cash community specifically, or is that kind of it?
Well, I would say that's kind of the message to the whole wanting to live on crypto community. I have 2 messages, which are very similar. One is you got to get like an all-in-one app type experience, because that's the missing thing. Like, there's so many merchant locations for a lot of coins, but specifically Bitcoin Cash, and it's just not reflected in transaction volume because it's the chicken or the egg. You got the egg, where's the chicken kind of thing. And if you have an all-in-one app where people can just live on crypto with one app, you can start getting people to live on crypto. And then they're going to be, I got crypto, where can I spend? And then they spend it. So that's number one, is like, you need to get the customer like friction down enough, just slice the customer friction down enough to where they will actually go spend at these merchants or these services and things like that. And then the other thing is still sort of similar to this. Starting at the beginning of next year, I'm going to re-release the How to Live on Crypto series, make it a little bit more expansive, and as far as, especially if people want to use different coins or in different regions, and also expand that to how to build a business on crypto, where it's like, here's how you do like invoicing and do your accounting as a business, and here's some workarounds for like how do you build your website and this and that, and take crypto payments there and there. Just because not everyone, once people build a business that runs on crypto, now you have crypto to spend, right? And I kind of got inspired by that a little bit by my friend Esteban, who is, over a year unbanked, living on crypto, and his company pays his employees half in crypto. Like, half of them get paid in crypto now. And he's like a new wave, like a 2021 Bitcoiner, BTCer, but he's not a dumb maxi though. So I kind of inspired that to like, oh, okay, like, he gets it. He's not alone. Like, let's provide easy tools for people who get it. And then just like, now you can start ramping up those payment numbers. The scoreboard for the community of any community is cryptofees.info. If those fees remain way too low, people aren't paying to use a network. They aren't spamming it either, like BSV or whatever. You don't have enough paying customers. Let's get those numbers up. And it's a long road, but it's something to do. It's the goal. That's the goal now.
Yeah, exactly. And good point. Forward says in the comments, what about vending machines? We're working on some stuff like that. That's the kind of thing where, yeah, then maybe you could integrate that into a map as well too. Obviously, have locations where people can spend things, or it's also giving mind share to people that's up in their face and so on and so forth. And I also want to just say, Big Chat asks, what do you think is the chance that Elon implements DOGE into Twitter? And I want to get your thought on that.
I implements DOGE either alone or in a position of prominence. I would say almost zero. Implements DOGE as part of a multi-coin wallet, 25%.
Yeah, I sort of think anything like that, he's going to have bigger fish to fry in the short term, even as much as he likes the idea. And on average, once you have to, like, Twitter is massive, right? If you started to put some people onto Dogecoin, even just a small test set of users, you would already just spike the fees on Dogecoin enough that it would be like, fuck, this isn't worth it. I mean,
Yeah,
the
they're not ready.
Dogecoin community as it is already hit, 50 cent or $1 fees just when there was a bit of hype going. So let alone putting in, okay, we're going to put in 500,000 Twitter users. That would be the end of the story right there. And it would be like, this is another Elon does crypto the wrong way, like he did putting in BTC into Tesla and then realizing, fuck, I got sold a bunch of bullshit by some maxis in my company. Anyway, that's a whole different story. But that will do it for this week. We've hit on a lot. I'm sure, yeah, we definitely could have gone much longer, but that's all right. We can always do another show. Get you back on sometime. Shout out to the patrons, Ricky and HP. Love you guys very much. Check out the start guide, FAQ and links at bitcoincashpodcast.com. Thank you to all of our donators, the podcast streamers, and the patrons, obviously. And shout outs for the show. Do you have a shout out, Joel? And or where can people find you to hear more of your quality content?
Yes. At the Desert Links on Twitter, not Desert Linux, Desert Links. And then just look up Digital Cash Network. You might see Jeremy a bunch there. Not a bunch, but enough. And that's just my show. And I do like interviews and stuff. I'm halfway through the proof of work versus proof of stake like interview series where I interviewed Josh Ellithorpe for the Bitcoin Cash community
that was a good episode. Yeah,
shill the hell out of proof of work. And then I had Justin Bonds, also a former Bitcoin Cash guy who's still friendly, but is more like all about proof of stake and programmatic stuff. But he's all shilling proof of stake. And then on Monday, I guess it's tomorrow, man, I have a lot of work to do. Tomorrow is Decred with their hybrid solution, talking about that. And hopefully I'll get someone from Dash on to talk about that as well. And just sort of give like a big full picture of, let's just get deep into this and not just have like sniping points on Twitter on that. And then hopefully after that one is done, I might put out like a thing on like why the Lightning Network is probably going to be much more expensive than people think. That'll be a fun one.
Yeah, that's always a bit of a vindication type one for the Bitcoin Cash long timers there. Chet, did you have any shout outs? I got to give you a shout out because I forgot to mention that you're producing the show at the start. God, the start of the show is a mess this week. But anyway, that's it. No shout out from you then. And my shout out is to Emiliana, who is a friend of mine that I was talking to about crypto a bit and stuff the other day, and is Bulgarian as well. So when you mentioned the Bulgarian government being less important than I think she would probably agree with you about that. But she might also be listening to the show. We were talking about the podcast a bit. So thanks, Emiliana, if you hear this. Shout out to you. And that will do it this week. Thank you everybody for listening, and until next time.
Peace.
The greatest story the world has ever known. The rise and rise of Bitcoin. 2022.
A single chance for the world, single moment in time. Bankers captures all, our cryptocurrency flies. Gets to decide, Phoenix fly from the flame. Bitcoin BCH, forever changing the game.
An underdog story everyone trying to deny. Bitcoin revolution, crypto trade on the rise. Then they stole our brand name and tried to push us aside. Cause they said it was over, that we'd never survive. Maybe there was a world that was the end of the ride. But this kind of hero's journey is refusing to die. So we picked up the shovels and headed back to the mine. Started over from scratch, finding fresh dynamite. Flipping over the board, drew up fresh battle lines. Set the difficulty right and forked a couple more times. Budgets got slashed with prices on the decline. While the faithless gave up, but the project survived. An unstoppable will kept the blockchain alive. And community grit simply arrested the slide. Suffered plenty of hate from doubters on the sidelines. Drew on passionate drive where strength comes from inside. So this is your notice, written down